basically in the last few years, we're starting to see a lot of cutting going on more in residential areas. There's a really big negativity out there, and when people talk about it or they see our cuts, they really don't like what they see.
Hey, Adam. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome back.
Jacob, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Today's episode is a chance to show tree service owners what modern commercial logging actually looks like. And spoiler alert, it's not quite like what most of them picture. Let's jump into your origin story, Adam. How did you get into operating heavy machinery for logging? Was it training, or was there a family in the industry?
I do have a lot of family in industry. I work with my uncle still. My father ran his own gear for quite a long time. Myself, I started out graduating high school and getting into welding. Through the years, ended up working on these pieces of gear every day, fixing them, repairing them. And came right down to I basically took a bad injury and couldn't do the welding thing anymore. Still had a connection with the machinery, and basically wanted to learn how to work in them instead of work on them. So I ended up taking a course. I had a company come to me and offer me a training course.
Sure.
Fully paid shot. And all I had to do was work for them for 2 years, and 2 years for 15 years ago.
Sure. So, Adam, let's get into some of those machines. What exactly are those machines that you operate? Could you walk us through maybe one of your specific machines and what it actually does?
Sure. Now, the machine that I operate is called a single grip tree harvester. So basically what it'll do is it'll grab each tree individually. That's the single grip part of it. It'll process out the tree. So we call that process cut to length. So each mill that we supply wood for has a spec. So those specs are based on diameter and length, and our programs in our computer allow us to put those specs into play and provide the mill with whatever they need. And then there's a machine follows me. So he comes behind me. It's called a forwarder. We also call it a porter. And that will pick up any, all the different specs that I lay down. He picks them up as a sort. So if there's 10 feet, he'll pick up all the 10-foot stuff, take it to the road, pile it down. And then our operation just has, after that, it goes to a log loader. They load the trucks and they truck it to the mill.
Sounds like a couple different machines there. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yep.
I think the most interesting to me would be definitely that the single arm, because watching your TikTok footage and watching the machine go through all the process, it's pretty attention grasping.
That machine is probably the highest technical machine in the woods right now.
Sure.
Like the computer systems are very elaborate in them. They run off so like I mentioned, the diameter sensors, the length. All of that's calculated through the computer. It comes out in a volume, so I can actually tell you how many cubic meters at the end of the day I've cut. It separates, if I want to tell you, okay, I cut maple today and I need 70 meters of maple, I can tell you how much of that I've cut today or tomorrow or whatever day. And that, it calculates everything there. I can calibrate everything through the computer. My computer is a tablet, so it's all touchscreen, and I can control every part of that machine, make adjustments, pressure adjustments, everything through that computer. So it's quite an elaborate system.
I was going to say, there's a couple questions that I was just about to get into, and that leads me right into the next point, Adam. What exactly does it look like inside your cab? Besides the controls screen and maybe some of the ergonomics, what are you looking at all day? Is it climate controlled by chance?
Not climate controlled. The climate control is kind of tucked behind me.
Sure.
That's the one you set and leave it. So you do the old Ronco, set it and forget it. If you know what that is. So basically in front of me, so my cab is not all that big when you consider the rest of the other machinery, but so where the windshield is, the computer is literally right in front of me. Okay. So I don't have to look at the computer. I can just glance down at it from time to time. And above it is just, wide open plexiglass windshield, whatever. To the right of me, I have, let me see. So to the right of me, I have my HarvNav GPS system, and it's think GPS, and it shows me a pinpoint to where my machine is, and then
Right.
it has a layout of the area that I'm actually allowed to cut. That also shows me any waterways, if there happens to be a bird nest in the area, a bear den, shows the power lines, we'll say, roadways. It shows everything on there.
Wow.
They're very elaborate now, and they're getting even more elaborate as they go. We're just about to get a new system in our machine, so they're going to send that out and give us a try and see how that works.
That's exciting.
So now the to the left of me just basically is storage, keep my chains, and that's a question I get a lot of: how often do you sharpen your chain? So I keep chains to the side of me in a storage compartment there. There's tools. I have a drawer underneath my seat that contains my ratchet system. Any wrenches and stuff are in toolboxes that are outside the machine. They're built on.
Sure. Right.
And then I just basically have my heater system, a cooling system, and behind me is coat hanger, stuff like that. And of course, my heated lunchbox in case I want to bring some leftovers.
Right. Gotta get your lunch in. You can't be hungry on the job.
Yeah. And I get sick of sandwiches really quick.
Yeah. They've the tech has definitely come up the last couple of years. Not to mention the tech and even like some of the to-go foods and stuff like that. Those to-go lunch things are really they're up with the stuff nowadays. You can eat up your lunch on the go. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So Adam, a little bit of the question. Let's take a step back. What's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about the modern logging industry? What do people picture versus like something? What are you actually doing all day?
Well, actually, that's the reason I got into this.
Sure.
In my province, so New Brunswick is where I live, but that's a small province compared to all the other provinces in Canada. So I think Maine's even bigger than New Brunswick. We're just a small little area. And basically in the last 2 years, we're starting to see a lot of cutting going on more in residential areas. Well, there's a really big negativity out there. And when people talk about it or they see our cuts, they really don't like what they see.
Sure.
So my idea was to educate people, show them what really the industry is about. And of course, our industry is high volume. Like we're talking like a million meters in a year for a mill or stuff like that. Not just the company I work for, but one mill might take 1 million meters in the run of a year. So, they're actually looking for pretty high production. That being said, when you get clear cuts that are 200 or 300 acres because the wood is dying off or somebody just privately owns ground, people tend to look at that as they've destroyed the ground. They're tearing it all to pieces. How come we're allowing this destruction? Then it gets political.
Sure.
And you know what it's like on social media. Everybody gets on Facebook. One person's, they put a complaint up and everybody's got a PhD. So, that gets really out there quickly. And then the next thing you know, my neighbors are in on it. They're complaining, or somebody I know is complaining on it. I see it. And then I kind of had the tendency to jump in and say, look, I'm in the industry and this is what it's all about. Let me explain it to you. And for the longest time, it was, I don't want to hear it.
Right.
And now going through social media, going through TikTok, especially the lives, and showing different videos of what we do and explaining it, it's actually, it's changed a lot of people's minds so far on what we do. And mainly because they never understood it before.
Yeah.
I know for the longest time, people just thought we just take these big machines into the woods. We just cut until we don't see any good wood, turn around and go back out and just come and take it. But that doesn't happen. We have strict regulations. Like I said, the GPS shows us where we're allowed to go.
Sure.
We use a lot of different, like there's a system for our GPS system called a LIDAR system.
Yeah.
And that's basically a flyover, which they can use from a drone or airplane or helicopter. And it basically shoots sensory lasers down towards the ground, shows the topography, shows the stand of wood. They say it can even pick up a can that's on the ground if somebody leaves the can there. So it's quite elaborate now. It's not just walk in, cut a bunch of wood and leave and destroy the ground and turn around and leave it there.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it. I actually have a couple questions that get into some of the specifics. Before we get into that, Adam, let's talk about the learning curve real quick. How long did it take you to get competent versus how long did it take you to get good at working the machine? What's harder than it looks?
Well, when I first started, joysticks are something that I wasn't used to. I was good with my hands. Being a welder, I could use my hands pretty well. But the joysticks, feeling the hydraulic power, learning how to run it at a smooth speed so that you could still get work done, takes a little while to get used to it. If you've never run a machine before, it's totally... When you get in the seat, you're sitting there looking at this great big machine, and you're moving it by the slightest movements of your hand, and it's intimidating at first.
Very meticulous, should I say?
Yeah, like a millimeter on your hand can move that boom 10 feet. So you're trying to get things figured out that way, and you're thinking about everything, especially when you're brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Now the machine I run nowadays, I've been doing this for almost 15 years, and this machine is the first machine of its type that I run, and it's got a whole different control system. The joysticks are completely different than anything I've ever run, and with my experience, it took me about 3 months to get really good at it, to the point where I basically say that I don't have to think about what my hands are doing in order to make the machine do it.
Sure.
And that's where a brand new operator that's never run a machine before, you're thinking about the tree species, you're thinking about the machine, what you're going to do, how you're going to do the next step, where you're going to pile. You're thinking about everything all at once, and it gets a lot. Like, it's intimidating. So
sure, it's basically become an extension of your body in a sense. Like now,
my hands just do the work on their own. I just think about what I'm doing. It just seems like I'm already doing it.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yep.
Getting into some of those production questions. On a good day, how many trees? How many cords or loads?
As far as trees, now that will depend on the size of the tree and the stand. So smaller trees tend to process quicker. And let's say I was on perfect flat ground and I didn't have to deal with anything. You could produce over like 12 to 1,500 trees if they're small enough. If I was to get into bigger wood, let's say 20 inches, and it was limby, I might get 700, 800. But it depends on every stand of wood, and daily it can change. So like I can be heading down the side of a hill, and that changes things. But yeah, between 700 and 1,500, it just depends. Like smaller wood, the wood that you would see me do on TikTok can be anywhere from 800 to 1,100, based on the raw and the rocks and the hills that I'm working on. So
sure. Yeah, I was just about to ask, what's something that slows you down there, Adam, besides the terrain and the slopes? Is there anything else? I know there's probably some restrictions like you talked about.
Yeah, and every season has its own restrictions. So springtime, you're thinking mud. We can get into some areas where mud actually slows us down because we have to work around wet spots and stuff like that, which can take some time. Summertime, we actually had one of the big restrictions was a forest fire. We actually had to shut our machines down for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
So we were off work for a couple of weeks last August, and that shut everything down. No harvesting, no trucking, no anything. Come the fall, it depends. Our falls here usually tend to be more rainy. Just depends on the hurricane season as it comes up the eastern seaboard.
Sure.
So when it gets September, we'll say, and it's raining every second day, our roads are a mess. And then we're, as far as cutting, it's not bad. But then you get into winter, obviously snowfall changes things. If it's snowing really hard, the trees get covered in snow, right? So every time you move a tree, you get just an avalanche of snow coming down in front of you. And it basically blinds you. So it's not easy to keep going until, once the snow stops the next day, or then the sun comes out and it's just like you're going snowblind looking at everything.
Right.
But once things start to melt off, you can go back to normal. Rocks are something that we have to deal with pretty near daily. If they're big enough, you can't drive over the rocks, so you have to drive around them and still reach and try to get the wood that you need to get. I was displaced one time for a nest that we didn't even know was there. They found a osprey nest, and it was coming on nesting time for so sometime in I think it was July, they hatch their eggs out, and while they're hatching, you're not allowed anywhere near the nests or anything like that.
Wow.
So, and it was quite a large area, more so than any other type of the year. So let's say if they're hatching right now, then I couldn't be within a kilometer.
Yeah.
But when they abandon the nest later, we can work up to a certain distance closer to them because they'll just abandon their nest and not come back. So that's a few different things we deal with too. breakdowns are the most typical one. Hydraulic hoses tend to go. We'll just say like this week I changed one yesterday just because it sprung a leak. Hydraulic oil is flowing through those hoses at 4,000 psi, so it's hot. It's wearing out the hoses, and they're the ones that are out there catching on trees and moving things. So operator skill can come into play that way too. So the more you damage the rougher you are on the machine, then the more breakdowns you're going to end up having.
Definitely. I know that hydraulic oil is probably a pretty messy cleanup. I know.
Yeah.
Not to mention with some of the restrictions you get into too. I'm sure there's probably some different fees and fines and things that can come associated with things like that.
Yep. We have to report our hydraulic spills. Anything, most of the time, small spills we can actually clean up. So if I'm out at my turnaround and I spill, a liter of oil, I can shovel it into a bucket and make sure it's not in the ground anywhere. Shovel that into a bucket. We also have they're spill rags basically. They won't absorb water, and I can sit them on a puddle basically and pour oil onto them, and they'll absorb the oil but not the water. So they're specifically made for us to clean up. And we have to have spill kits on our sites at all times, so either on our pickups or on the machine or wherever.
Right.
So just to make sure we're not leaving oil anywhere, and there are tight regulations in the woods for those. Right. You can't, like, we have a governing body called the Department of Natural Resources in our area.
Okay.
So that's government, and basically they come out with the restrictions and the laws and anything that we have to follow. And they come out, and if let's say they drive into our site and I have a oil spill on my turnaround or somewhere on the road and they can see it, then we can get into fines, and we still have to clean it up. Sure. So it's something we try to minimize. It happens. It's just part of the game.
Yeah, sounds like it. That wraps up most of the maintenance and downtime questions. Let's jump into the operator skill, kind of like you just briefly touched on. What separates a mediocre operator from a great one? Can you feel the tree necessarily through the machine, or is it all visual?
You learn to feel the machine. So if I wasn't looking, let's say I closed my eyes and I could feel my joysticks. My joysticks are electric. So the electric power controls the valves that push the oil through. So I'm basically running an electric joystick. So I don't necessarily feel as much, but I can still tell when the boom's moving.
There's a feedback element to it.
It's just, and you feel like the machine moves a little bit, it twists a little bit. But when it comes to a new operator, the biggest thing is everybody wants to cut a lot of wood fast. So they want to get out and, okay, I'm talking to this guy who's got 15 years experience. I'm brand new. Well, he's cutting 150 meters every day. I want to cut 150 meters too. And he comes in and he's just ripping and tearing, and the beads of sweat are flying off him, and he's just, and he comes in without having to learn the actual proper operation of that machine. Right. And then you get things like you can break guards off, you're catching hoses, and you're kicking chains, you're bending bars, you're doing all the things that experienced guys learn to get rid of in their play, where these guys are just picking it up and they're like, how are you doing that? Well, it takes time to get smooth, and the mentality is the big thing. You got to have the mentality that you want to be good and not fast. You can be both. But if you learn how to run the machine first and do a good job, be smooth, the speed automatically comes. There's no way it doesn't.
It kind of reminds me of the age-old saying, do it right, do it light, versus do it wrong, do it long.
Yep. It's the same thing as if I was, let's say I was turning 16 and my dad gave me a Ferrari. And I've never driven a vehicle before, and I hop in the Ferrari and go down the road and hit 200 miles an hour. Probably not going to hold on very well. That car is probably not going to make it back. But if I hop in, take the Ferrari, drive down speed limit, get used to the gears, get used to the car, in 10 years time, I'm going to be a top-notch driver and I can handle that car. Right. Same thing.
Sure. Man, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Wrapping up segment 3, we'll jump into segment 4, which talks a little bit about the business and the industry reality. So some of the economics, let's get into that. I know you mentioned it just a bit ago, but I'll go ahead and run through it again. Adam, are you an employee or an owner operator? And how does payment work? Do you work maybe on a per quarter or per day or a salary basis?
I'm an employee of a larger company. Okay. So we have, I'm the only one that has the machine like the one I run. The rest of them are track machines, so they look more like an excavator. There's a bunch of them, and it's a fairly good sized company. We get a lot of work done. So I'm paid by the hour now. With the logging around here used to be paid by piecework, which meant if I cut a tractor trailer load of wood, I got paid per each log. But that's gone out quite a few years ago, probably before I got into the logging. So, but basically what they try to do now is base your salary or your hourly wage based on what kind of an operator you are. So
Sure.
Do you break down a lot? Is it worth it to have you on the site? Or can you cut a lot of wood and not break down? Are you reliable? What kind of a worker are you all around? How many hours would you put in? Like, it's all based on the type of worker you are. And if you're not a good worker, then the rate is not going to come.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some of the equipment costs, what are we talking about for these machines, Adam?
Now, the machine that I have, it's a John Deere 1270G 6-wheel drive. And that machine, when it came, I believe it was around 1.13 million. Now, that's only in Canada. So I would imagine, I don't know what that cost would be down there. But I know I talked to another guy on TikTok, and he said that he just bought one, and his was only a little over 500,000. But my machine is made in Finland and brought over. It's imported. Many hands in the pocket, I think.
Right.
And then our Canadian dollar is not very strong, so the exchange rate, all that stuff comes into play too.
Sure.
And chances are, like, if you were to buy the same piece of equipment where you live, it would probably be 30% cheaper, probably, than what I have.
Sure.
And you might be like, well, it would only cost me 700,000 here, but based on our exchange rate and all that stuff, it would cost more up here. But it's
just like anything, it's a little bit of related to the geo and the kind of area that you're in. You won't pay the same price for a burger in Dallas, Texas that you will in Las Vegas either. I promise you that.
It's the same. Like, we went to Tennessee for a vacation last year.
Sure.
Was my family's first time in the U.S. As
Nice.
vacation time. And, like, it was $3.25 a gallon for gas. We pay $1.50 a liter. And so that puts us at about $6 a gallon.
Wow.
So I'm going down and I'm filling my vehicle for $50, but I come to Canada and it's $100 to fill it.
Right.
So, it's the same idea.
Sure. Man, that's awesome.
Big difference.
Oh, some of the regulations and environment rules. Adam, let's get into what environment rules are you working under typically? Is there buffer zones, species restrictions, or seasonal limitations? I know you mentioned a couple of those.
Yep. Now, a lot of people don't understand these ones. This is where the general public kind of comes in and throws a fit. So our waterways, depending on what the waterway is, and depending on what mill or what license is doing the cut, everybody is allowed to do something different. So let's say that I'm near a huge main river, and it's one of the biggest rivers in the area. The buffer zones would increase to like 100-meter buffer. So that's a very good sized distance.
Sure.
If I'm near a small waterway that's maybe 2 feet wide and that's more of a brook than a river, I'm allowed to do a 30-meter buffer, but I'm not allowed to operate the nearest 15. So that's that's 45 feet.
Sure.
From the edge of the water. The next 15 meters away from that, we call that a no-track zone. So I'm only allowed to go into that 15 meters as far, and I can only take a little narrow strip. So I think maximum of 30% that I'm allowed to take. We still have to leave that buffer wood, but the idea of it is to allow more sunlight in, because there's a lot of regen and younger growth in those.
Right.
But there's also a lot of aged wood that they would go after, because most of it will blow over. When a tree gets that size near a waterway, you're just going to see them fall over everywhere because the root system is in the water.
It's in the water, right.
Yeah, and it does blow down. I mean, you think the tree should be stronger, but there is a lot of blowdowns in those areas.
Yeah.
So when we take the 30% out, it allows sunlight into the other trees, strengthen those, and lets those grow, and we won't be touching those. That wood is going to stay there. So Then there's another one we call a 7-meter no track. And that 7-meter no track is basically if you were walking through woods and come to a really wet, mossy area, that area can be operated, but I can't drive through it. So it wouldn't be like an underground spring because the water would be moving, but the ground is really soft. So if you were walking through with a pair of boots on, you would sink maybe to your knees or whatever. So we could reach over. If there's any healthy wood, we could pull that, but it's not really affecting any waterways. It's just a wet area that maybe we had a heavy winter and it pooled right there and it never really ran anywhere. It just soaked into the ground. It really doesn't affect much for the waterways. So, but it's a little bit different than working around a brook or a stream or an underground spring even.
Yeah.
Yep. So those we work with every day. Usually they're on our HarvNav. Like I'll have to do a little picture and send you there because it shows me exactly where I'm allowed to walk, where I'm allowed to actually track.
Pull it up here for everybody so they can kind of see it as you're talking through it.
Yep. And it'll show me like basically blue lines are my waterways. It shows me my buffers. And my HarvNav, the GPS system is centered to my machine, so it shows me exactly where the center of the machine is. So when I'm walking by it, I actually, if I'm traveling over to it, I know where I have to stop before I get too close.
Right.
And then they come in, like I talked about that Department of Natural Resources, they come in and actually check and make sure that I haven't crossed those lines. So yeah, it's they just walk through with their tablets too.
I was going to ask, is that something they do remotely or is that something they do on site? Sounds like on site.
So yeah, it's most of the time they'll come out once a week and they'll check things over. My site supervisor, which I have a supervisor within our company, and then I have another one from the mill that comes out to double check everything to make sure everything's going good.
Sure.
Usually by then it's already caught if anything happens. I haven't, it's been a long time since I've seen anybody really get caught by doing it. They don't really necessarily even get caught. It's just a mistake. Say the GPS system acted up or something, but it doesn't happen as much as most people would think. Sure. We don't go out there to try to destroy the waterways. We don't try to destroy things like that. And if at the end of my block, so the block is the area that I would cut. At the end of my block, I have to turn in my breadcrumbs. So everywhere that we have on the HarvNav, everywhere that I have gone with the machine, it shows a crumb trail. So they actually have to download that file. They take it, make sure everything's done the way it should be, turn that in, and then the DNR would come up with their tablet, check it all over, make sure everything is exactly the way we said it was. And if not, there can be repercussions. If there is, then they discuss it and see why and try to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Sure. Man, it sounds, I was thinking maybe they did some of that checking like through some of those LIDAR checks that you mentioned earlier. But it sounds like definitely it'd probably have to be in person.
Yeah, typically they don't do the LIDAR after the block is laid out.
Gotcha.
In the future, it might be something that they look at, but I don't think they normally do it. They just normally put boots on the ground, get out, walk it, and you can usually see it. And the first place they go is right to me in the machine and look at my GPS
Look
system.
at where your GPS tells you it's like
exactly
it's like the murder trail or the murder investigation when they're like, oh, your phone pinged like 3 a.m. right here. Like, what were you doing?
We're starting with you.
My phone wasn't there. I was asleep. It's like, okay.
Honestly, sir, I didn't do it. Yeah.
Right.
No, but it's a lot tighter than people think. Like years ago, I'm going to say like the late 70s when they first started mechanical harvesting, they didn't care about much of anything back then. They just dropped this big machine off and it would cut, and they would cut through brooks. They would destroy whatever they could. They didn't have GPSs. They just went by a ribbon. So they just cut until they found this ribbon and turn around and go back to the road and do another one. But nowadays it's a lot more technical than what a lot of people think. And we try our best because we're, like I said, I live in the area. I don't want to destroy all the brooks and rivers around my area.
Right.
I want to keep those, and this is the regulations that they allow us to do to try to help things out as well as still get some nice wood for the mills.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's an industry. We got to keep the industry going. So we're not out killing everything. We're trying to manage it.
Balance, right?
Yeah.
Balance.
But it'll be like, our blocks will be planted and they'll regrow. They'll manage it for the next 45, 50 years. And again, probably the next generation, it won't be me in 50 years. I better not be. But, they're out doing the same thing I'm doing now. So, yeah.
Right. That's awesome, Adam. Let's jump into segment 5, some of the reality check questions. Let's jump into first one here. The hard part nobody talks about. Long days, isolation, repetitive motion injuries. Is it more mental challenges of the work, or is there physical?
The biggest down to the job is the hours, because you're up early. I get up at 3 a.m.
Oh, wow.
I work 11 and a half hours, so I usually travel half an hour to an hour to work. Start at 4:30 usually. You're working 11 and a half hours. I get done at 4 and I'm home for supper. But then, I take off and I coach hockey. A young lad plays hockey, so I coach hockey. I play softball in the summertime.
Awesome.
And then if you're doing that till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, turn that back around and get up at 3 o'clock the next morning, you're going to work like,
yeah,
you're not wide awake. So that's one. The other thing for our area here, I don't know if it's like this in most areas, but is the condition of the weather. I have to go in all conditions.
Oh, wow.
A lot of guys say, it's too bad out there. I'm not going today, or maybe we'll make up a day Saturday. If it's really bad, we will actually stay home. So freezing rain, the roads are really icy, we make the call on that. Most times I'm getting up and I'm going in a snowstorm, whatever I got to go, I'm going to work.
Oh.
And it's been times where I've been in some pretty bad spots. I've had a couple of truck accidents. It's actually the last accident that I was into 6 years ago, I believe. When I was talking to the police officer that came to do the report, he actually he didn't even come. When I called them, he said, "Do you know how bad the roads are?" And I said, "Yeah, I do.
I'm out here."
Yeah, and he said, "I'm not going out on those." So he's basically telling me the roads are that bad, and he wouldn't come out, and he's a police officer.
Man.
So he's like, "No," he said, "You guys, between you guys and ambulance drivers," he said, "you guys are driving in the worst conditions out there." So those two careers are, driving experiences for sure. So that's another major down. Like if I know we're going to get 30 centimeters of snow, well, I know what I'm going to look forward to in the morning.
You better bundle up and get some extra coffee, some snacks, all the above. Yeah,
exactly. And the other part, it's part of the job that we've got to grow and get used to, is the high production thing coming back again. So if we miss a day, that machine or the profit of the company that would get from that machine missing a day gets impacted quite big.
Sure.
In our area, it's not like, let's say, actually, I had a fellow from, where was he from? He's somewhere in the States. He showed me a picture of a load of logs, and one log was worth $25,000. It was like some kind of a cherry wood or something. I was like $25,000. And I'd be like, I'd have to work for a week and a half to get $25,000. So the rates that are here force us to have to work that much harder to keep things, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. Like the wood that I'm cutting right now on the site is different than the wood I cut 2 months ago. Right. So the wood I had when it was easier, bigger wood, and I had an easier time of getting higher volume. Sure. Now I'm working twice as hard trying to get anything done. Yeah. And the rates don't change for the smaller wood. So that's the big, and you feel the pressure when you're in the seat. You're like, oh, this has got to go. So you miss a day, it's a Saturday or a holiday.
Reminds me of a concept that we call, or a lot of people, one thing I've learned called opportunity cost. So there's the cost of doing something, which is like say I want to buy this product, it costs me $1,000. Okay, that's the cost. Then there's the opportunity cost, right? Or what are you losing out by, being in this middle phase of stagnant? What is this product going to give me the solution? Like what? Yep. What am I missing out there? So really, really love that, Adam. Thanks for sharing.
Well, we'll just say, like, if let's say a machine needs $15,000, divide that by 5 days, so you need to make $3,000 a day. You miss one day and you miss $3,000, and that machine doesn't break even. Right. There's a lot of pressure on that guy sitting in the seat.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel it after a while.
Let's take a little bit of a tangent, I guess, on some of the close calls and learning moments. Besides equipment malfunctions or things like that, maybe there are terrain challenges or I know you got into a little bit about some weather. I know weather doesn't typically shut you down, but is there any terrain challenges besides the slopes and the water?
Let's see.
The focusing points there.
I know. Let me think. Well, wherever I'm working, usually we go over the topography, so we know where all the hills and all the valleys are.
Right.
I did have I had one circumstance the very first year that I ran a harvester, where I was working right beside the road and I was on a huge rock. I didn't know it. The excavator built the road and it kind of buried the rock. And I was in a track machine. So basically the process of that would be, there's another machine that we didn't talk about called a feller buncher, but we don't see those very often. But the feller buncher it snips the tree and then just lays it down.
Right.
So I come along with my machine, process it to the cut to length process again, and then they can do the rest of the site stuff after I'm done. So once we build a new road, I have to process all that road wood before we can start doing the block.
Right.
And I was on that rock. There was a larger stump that I was caught on. I swung the boom one way. It slid off the rock. The inside track went down in the dirt where they had been digging.
Cool.
And up and over and landed the boom on its side on the road. And here I was in the machine. And luckily I got out because I was by myself. We didn't have any radio communication where I was working.
Sure.
Cell phones didn't work there. So basically I got out of the machine and I was shaking from adrenaline and shock.
Right.
I had to walk probably 1.5 kilometers before I got anything. Basically send a text and watch for it to go. So you're walking around to see.
Right.
And then I basically just sat there because my pickup truck was on the other side of the machine where I had upset and I couldn't get out. So I couldn't just hop in my truck and go get for help. It was, I'm standing here till somebody finds me.
Right. Oh, wow.
But we do have things now that we can actually make communication if we don't have cell phone. You know, we get cell phone boosters and stuff like that now, but
sure.
We can ping if we need to, if there's emergency, you know. There's always, and cell phones now starting to come out with satellite
yeah, all
stuff,
the satellite connection stuff that they got now. I was going to ask, I wonder if there was some sort of radio or pinger sort of, kind of like back in the day they used to use pagers. Wasn't sure if something like that would work out there when signal is tough.
After that happened, when they got the machines back on its tracks again and everything, they actually brought me, it was kind of like a pinger. I don't know what you'd call it, but every 2 hours or every hour, I had to hit the button just to say that I was okay. Oh. And if they didn't get that ping every hour, then somebody's coming for me.
Sure.
So we've learned from that, obviously, but nowadays it's not as bad unless you're up in the mountains and there's not a whole lot of cell phone service, but it's usually pretty good. Or we don't work alone anymore. We have somebody with us. Over the years, you just get used to what's going to happen. It's not like it used to be with 2 guys running chainsaws and skidders, and then some guy half cuts a leg off, and now they're like, how do we get him out of the woods? It's totally different now. So
right.
Yeah.
Your story sounded pretty rough.
That one's I won't forget that one.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a memorable time.
Yeah, that's one way of putting that. It's want to be forgettable. We'll call it.
I was gonna say see if that has kind of shifted anything in your perspective of how you approach things after that, or if it was more so one of those learning lessons where you kind of take a lot of things away from it, knowing that it's not something it can happen every day. Technically, it could. But how do you reframe your perspective to still have confidence in your work and in your machine to
the one thing that I've come to learn over the years, it's tough when you're driven hard to work hard all the time. But the one thing that I've learned over the years is I want to go home to my family regardless.
Right.
I'm not going to push any limits. I'm not going to go do things that are going to possibly put me in danger. Because at the end of the day, I'm doing it for my family. I'm trying to keep my family looked after financially. And if I'm not there to do it, changes the game and I'm not here anymore.
Right.
took a couple of accidents to get a beating on the head kind of thing and smarten me up. But being young, I'll say young, when I was 30 years old, I didn't mind hurrying to work and hurrying home and doing some craziness and just trying to get things done. And nowadays it's, I've got 3 kids. They're older kids now. They're all teenagers. But my wife checks up on me a lot, and I just, at the end of my day, I drive home safely. I don't speed hardly ever. And I just want to get here. The next day I do the same thing all over again. So that's the important part. And it kind of, when you're younger, you don't think about that. You kind of feel indestructible. So yeah.
Definitely. What's the future of the industry look like for you, Adam? Where do you see it going? Is it more automation coming? Maybe a labor shortage? Is it hard to find operators? Where's it heading in the next 10 years?
Right now it's kind of in a mess. Obviously in Canada, we hear tariffs all the time. We've always had tariffs on lumber. It's just a matter of adjusting and all that. It's, everybody can panic if they want to, but that's just something you hear all the time. A lot of people don't realize that. But right now, one of the biggest killers is there's a demand for workers in our industry, especially in our area. I'm not sure if that's that way all over the place, but there's a demand for workers. Okay. But nobody will hire anybody because it costs too much to train workers. So there might be people out there that want to get in the seat and learn how to run these machines, but with no training, contractors won't give them the chance, because we're talking $250,000 to $500,000 to train a guy that they'll lose in the run of a year. So most contractors hang out or hold out for the experienced guy, or maybe just some guy that happened to maybe want to come home from British Columbia, and he had logging experience. So, hey, come work for me. This is what I'll give you.
Yeah.
But so now that's one of the questions I get a lot of, especially on the lives, where how do I get into this industry? And the answer that I always give is there's 2 ways. One, you take a course, which we do have one. I was just talking to a fellow today that actually is in the course and he's almost done. He's got a job as soon as he comes out of the course.
Nice.
The other way, and that's the way I took it. I took a course, got into the seat, and just find where I wanted to fit in, and that's where I'm at.
Right.
But the other chance that people have is, say they ran an excavator, any type of equipment, and they knew somebody that would be interested in hiring you if you had that little bit of experience, maybe not in logging, but you did have a little bit there, or that you were a good worker and that contractor maybe knows, hey, he's a really good worker. I can turn him into an operator, and then they'll bring them on, show them the ropes, and then let them go. So without those 2 possibilities, I can't think of a third reason that anybody would get in the seat. And there is a lot of people that want to. They're just not willing to take the steps to get there. And they just, for a long time, if you could just say, hey, I want to go to work in the woods. Hey, yep, that's great. I got a job for you. I got a seat. Hop in. And away he goes. And 10 years later, he's still doing it. But those days are coming down because the cost of training and everything is just getting too high.
Sure. Seems like there's kind of some things shifting with the barriers to entry. Getting a little bit more expensive, maybe less people passing on the industry from family to family. And obviously, that's always something that's tough across any industry, really. But
the knowledge is easily passed, right? So like my grandfather was a logger. My dad was a logger, had his own gear. And then he got out of his own company and went to work for the same company I'm working for now. Okay. And that's, I came to work for there. This is my 6th year. I think I've been with this company. And, we still talk. My dad's retired, and we still talk almost the daily on what I'm doing at work and how we can improve things. We talk about it a lot. So, the knowledge is always easily passed down. The other thing is, if my dad worked in the industry and I'm trying to break into it, they're like, well, hey, his father was really good at what he did, and let's give him a shot because it might be in his blood. So, yeah, but that knowledge is passed down a lot through the generations around here, at least.
I love that. That's how it should be.
Yep. For everything, actually.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's one of the most unique things. So, like a related tangent. I've been getting into fly fishing a lot more recently,
Oh yeah.
and so I've been going probably the last month or 2 months. Been fly fishing in a place called Blue River in Tishomingo. Been
Okay.
catching some rainbow trout, a couple brown trout, some carp, and some bass and different things.
Yep.
But this last week, or probably 2 weeks ago, I've just started to be a little bit more, hey, what are you using? Hey, what are you using? Just start talking to more people that are out there.
Yep.
And that feeling that you get of just everybody so open to sharing information to help someone else, to provide some sort of sense of a greater like feeling than personal success or like personal achievement. It's just it's super inspiring. So I love that, and it's kind of related to what you talked about.
And the fly fishing, I know my grandfather was a big fly fisherman, and my brother's a big fly fisherman, and I live beside one of the world-renowned rivers. So,
Oh wow!
it's called the Miramichi River. Salmon fishing, stuff like that is turning into the lower end's turning into bass fishing. But like my grandfather taught my brother certain casting techniques, how to tie flies, how to do all that, and
Cool.
I'm not near the fisherman he is, but he can go out and he can just lay a line out and pull a fish in, and I'm not. I could go out there all day and be like, "How's he doing this?" But he was taught by the best. So
I was the first couple times I went out there, I was like it was magic or something, and then I started talking to guys, and now it's like I'm sharing people, I'm telling people what I'm using now. It's like,
yep,
man, it's just the feeling is surreal.
yep. The techniques are always going to come. Yeah, you're going to learn every day.
Let's wrap this up, Adam, with some rapid fire questions. Right off the bat, favorite tree species to process?
Balsam fir.
Why?
Easiest to limb, easiest to cut.
Fair enough. Least favorite?
Yellow birch.
I'm guessing for the opposite reasons.
Yeah, it's the big crowns on top. It's hard to feed. It's usually crooked, and it's usually pretty hard wood.
Sure. Best day you had ever in a cab? Can you give us a brief highlight or a brief moment?
The one that I can remember, I would have been cutting a large stand of red pine. So red pine is a long, tall, pole-like tree. We use them for power poles. Okay. And the site that I was onto, it basically looked like a golf course with all these poles standing up in it. And it was beautiful cutting. I had a great time. At the same time, people came out. The mill I was working for, they wanted to come out and make sure everything was okay. They brought coffee. They brought donuts.
It was like a show and tell work day.
Yeah, we had a pretty good little day, and I got a lot of production, and it was just a great day. So I mean, those days come along every once in a while, but the stand of wood made it worth it, and then everybody joining in on it. It was a pretty good day.
Yeah. What would surprise tree guys most about your work, Adam?
You mean the arborists? You mean?
Yeah, when I get reference tree service guys, yeah, some of the arborist, owner operator companies, things like that.
Okay. Well, I have first of all, I'm going to say I got a huge respect for the arborists and the guys that climb the trees and the guys that they're up there and they're running the saws, and I'm not going to be the one to get up those trees. I guarantee you. I'd much rather have my feet on the ground. But and I don't know what the respect is like coming the other way to a machine operator, but when we're like at the end of a week, we're tired too. I've been referred to by some people as, you sit in the seat all day and you push buttons all day. How tiring can it be? It's still pretty tiring. Yeah. It's not, I'm not physically wore out like a guy that would be climbing and doing, he's hanging rope across the tree and hanging it, swinging it into a chipping truck and all this stuff. And he's climbing. Right. Maybe he's got the pegs on like a pole climber. I don't do all that stuff, but it's still pretty tiring. And when you put 11, 12 hours in a seat and you get out and you're stiff, your legs are hurting, because you don't get out a whole lot. You're driving to get that production. Right. Pack on a few extra pounds here and there. Your blood pressure starts to get out of whack over a few years. It's, it's exhausting work, but it's still work. So, I've known some guys that get in as a chainsaw guy, get into a machine and they're like, I can't do this. This is too boring, because they're used to climbing through the bush, going with the chainsaw. But, us guys that sit in the seats and, operate this big equipment, we still have a huge respect for those guys. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't care what you're sitting on for 10 or 11 or 12 hours a day. Even if it's a love sack cushion, I guarantee you're probably going to feel pretty wore out from being in that same position all day.
yeah, and it's far from a love sack cushion, I'll tell you that.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. If you had to climb a tree for a day with a chainsaw, Adam, how would that go? Would you contract it out? Would you, what would you do? It's just a fun one. Have fun with it.
That could be interesting because, me being stubborn, I'd probably start at the butt and just try to follow it. I might end up as one of those stupid oops videos on YouTube. But I think like my dad, he used to do chainsaw cutting, and he showed a lot of techniques and stuff like that. But we've been in circumstances where I've had a huge spruce tree near wires by my house, some large poplar trees, and we had to fall them between my shed and my house, stuff like that. And my dad did it. But as far as me getting on that chainsaw, it's a little different from a harvester. I can't throw it around. I would probably have to call him or call somebody that knew what they were doing, because I could fall a tree, I could junk up a tree limit, I can do all that. And I'm just not the pro that needs to be in certain jobs, and those guys are the men for the jobs.
There's a reason that it's dangerous work. They say 1 in 10 people, could potentially get out of the line of work due to how dangerous it is. So,
I can understand that.
I can imagine it might be even higher than that.
Yeah, my cab is safety rated. It's I got a roof over my head, I got a windshield in front of me. It's all safety rated, and those guys don't have that stuff when they're hanging 100 feet in the air.
Right. Wrap this up real quick. One last question, Adam. One piece of advice for someone wanting to get into operating.
The best piece of advice I could give somebody just starting out, let's say you're getting into a machine of any sort, is to learn the machine. Don't try to rush it. Take your time and learn how it feels. Try to be smooth, and any speed that you're looking for doesn't need to come right away, because it'll come eventually just naturally as you get better. But my dad gave me the best advice, and I still live by it, is try not to break down. If it's because of me, then I need to fix me, because he always said there's 3 things that you lose, or the contractor loses, when you actually break down. So first of all, you're paying me to do something other than cut wood. So you're still paying my wages. I got to repair it. I have the cost of the repair. So if it's a hose, a knife, whatever, the cost of the repair is down.
Sure.
And then you're taking your losses from the products that you should be cutting, and you're not actually making that money. And it takes a whole lot more to get that back to basically green.
Yeah, baseline even.
Yeah, and if anything happens like a larger breakdown and it's your fault, then it can really get costly. So it's not easy to make up those things. So he always made sure I understood those three points when it come to breaking down and how to look after my site.
Awesome. Real quick, Adam, before we wrap this up, where can people follow your work? Shout out your YouTube, social medias, etc.
Yeah. So I go by Up and Adam. It's UP, Up, N, the letter N, Adam, ADAM. And I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. YouTube is just a little bit educational. I don't have a big following there. As well as Instagram and TikTok. You can find me on Up and Adam 6. And you'll see me on lives. You'll see my videos. All of my lives are on TikTok. I don't like the Facebook TikToks or the Facebook lives.
Facebook
I don't like them at all. So I do my lives on TikTok, and but Facebook and TikTok are my 2 main ones. But I'm a little bit everywhere. You'll probably see my ugly mug come up on a reel every now and then. So
awesome. Thanks again, Adam. I appreciate your time tonight. Everyone go check out Adam's social media content on TikTok. His lives are super engaging. Definitely worth out checking.
Thanks a lot, Jacob. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again. Take care, everyone.
All right. See you guys.